Alright, what's up guys? Nate and Phillip back again. Another episode of the PokeTalk podcast is underway. How's it going, man?
Not too bad. A lot of exciting events going on since the last time we had a recording.
Yeah, for sure. We got, we kind of touched on the Van Gogh situation last week. We're starting to see some of those get graded. It's kind of crazy, like the prices they're bringing. A few of them were like around 1,000 sale,
which is ridiculous.
But yeah, they're quickly coming down, and I couldn't imagine paying. Like you'd almost have to pay $150 for the grading fees to get that done that quick. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. For this episode though, it's going to be a little shorter one, probably. We always say that, but we never know.
Yeah.
Just kind of be a general discussion. We did get some PSA cards back, or I did rather. The one with your order is still waiting, but yeah, we're gonna just kind of touch on our goals and how those have changed. I know we've done episodes before where we talk about our goals, but the grading my gold stars and first editions weren't really in the cards until like the week I decided to do it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I would say it's not so much like collection goals, although it would be under that subject, obviously. I feel like it's more like, what are our grail moves, the big moves, if you will, that we're going to make? What are some of the big cards we have? We didn't want to do like a top 5 grails because we feel like it's going to be repetitive. But this is a little bit of where our focus has shifted, both Nathan and I, with where we're at, kind of what we're thinking, and hopefully you find it entertaining.
Yep. And a lot of it, even though it's a lot of my PSA orders, like you're potentially buying some cards that are mine that I'm selling as a result from this.
And it works out. Like, yeah, and we'll definitely go into that because like your moves is obviously affecting my moves because I feel like it's a potentially can't miss opportunity. So,
yep. But we'll cover all that. It's a lot of gold star and first edition talk.
I do just would like to say that, we did record the last podcast early. I just wanted to say, first of all, Bob Dylan was absolutely incredible. Okay. He is 82, but still doing amazing. And I can't wait to see him again if he still decides to tour, even when he's like 83, 84. I'll be there.
Yeah. He's good. He's not my cup of tea for
which is
going to
fine.
A show, but
yeah, I mean, which is fine because a lot of folks know his old stuff, like his more folk music, but don't necessarily realize that he shifted more to blues. Post about mid '90s is kind of when he shifted more to blues, and it was the best decision of his career. And so a lot of folks I understand don't like that folk, almost country, which he also kind of was a little bit earlier in his career. He had like a Johnny Cash album, or he had an album that he had a few Johnny Cash songs with him on, and but overall, I mean, if you have listened to him, he's probably the greatest American songwriter that has ever lived. And I'm not being like, I don't feel like I'm being biased. I mean, I am, but I don't feel like I am. If you just look at his lyrics, and I mean, how many people can say that they defined a movement? I would say almost no artist can, but he's one that can. His songs literally defined a movement in the '60s with the civil rights movement. Yeah. But anyways,
we're all entitled to our opinions.
Yeah.
But
so
yeah, he's pretty good. I do like the older stuff of his. Never really got on the deep dive to see his whole library, but
which is significant, as you can imagine. 60 years worth of albums, so
yeah. But to me, like, in a way, if you have that many albums and like most people don't know about them, like
exactly, people only know about a dozen songs. Yeah, well, it's because people follow certain genres of music, and blues, unfortunately, and even folk and even country, certain like actual good country, like your Tyler Childers, your Jason Isbell, folks like that. You have to really almost go and do a deep dive and try to find, just because they don't get playtime. You hear country. The country you hear is just pop music sold to a more rural audience. That's all it is. Like the country that everybody says they hate, that's that pop country that comes out of Nashville. That's basically, again, just more palatable pop music being sold to a country audience. That's all it is. But
Yeah, that's kind of the case for all music, though. Like,
nowadays, but I
I'm
mean,
pretty
you could.
extensive on my like music library, and I listen to a lot of those guys that most people have no idea who they are.
No.
Jason Isbell's is really good. He's one of my favorites in that genre, though.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's I love Tyler Childers. So, it's like you have to do a deep dive. Most people, unless you're like really really into certain music, you're not going to know who the hell they are. Even though I would argue both those two are probably the top country artists today, or at least the most talented, or some of the most talented. I'll say it like that.
Yeah.
But anyways,
It is also just like I do the deep dive on certain artists in that genre, but overall,
yeah,
it's not my top genre.
yeah, no, I agree.
And I think the same
I,
things of like other people in other genres.
I listen to every single genre of music. I mean, you could hear me listen to Lamb of God and Slayer and Behemoth one day, and I could be listening to Tyler Childers the next, or even Bonnie Tyler. So it's just one of those things. So
Yeah, mine goes pretty deep as well. I was listening to like the Baldur's Gate 3 soundtrack,
yeah,
and
an
then jump into
instrumental and like,
Seosin, and then
hmm
jump into some old country, which I don't like new country really, and not just like what you hear on the radio, because like I can't remember last time I just actually listened to the radio, but
yeah.
even what can people consider the good stuff today, it's like like 90s country is where it's at for me. But anyway, for some Pokemon stuff, what do we got in the news?
Well, we have the Savages. I guess that's an update on the Van Gogh issues with the museum, with the promos, and the Savages have made the Van Gogh Museum stop carrying the promos.
Yep, they totally
So
took them away. Good
yeah, it's like
job.
this is not what we wanted. This is not what we want people to see about our museum. That's exactly what's going on. We're just going to go ahead and we're still going to do the promo, but we don't want anything to do with this card anymore.
Yep. And there are other stores that you can visit in Amsterdam that I guess have access to the promo. And then, of course, Pokemon just released it online again a couple days ago this week. So, yeah, if you guys didn't jump in on that, it's probably too late.
Which is another subject. Which is another subject. It was in when I added it, the item, from TCG that was like $40. It was like a Crown Zenith, more Hecko V box, whatever. It was Crown Zenith. I was like, I love V-Star Universe. Crown Zenith is the English set of it. I'm gonna go ahead and get that. And then when I went to checkout, I noticed after I pressed it, I was like, oh shit, where's the promo? I'm not seeing it. So I was already charged, and I immediately went through a file complaint, and I'm like, hey, I don't want this if I'm not getting the promo, and I haven't heard anything back. And that was like Wednesday.
Yeah.
So, and they still charge my card.
Now you've been flagged by Pokemon. You're a promo getter.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I want. Like, if it were Japanese product, I would have no issues finding stuff I wanted. But English product, I really don't want it.
Yeah, I went with I got two of them. I went with ETBs. So you figure, obviously the most valued thing you could get from the Pokemon Center from a general perspective is packs, like just straight packs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went to ETB route. I did a Lost Origin and a separate order for the Arceus set. What the hell is it called?
Brilliant Stars.
Brilliant Stars, yeah. So, yep, I did two ETBs. I should have two promos. They're on the receipt. One of them should be coming today already, I think.
So you already got the notification that it was shipped. See, we ordered the same day.
Yeah.
So there's clearly something's up. I haven't even received a notification, and based on what I've seen on social media, I'm not the only one.
Yeah. One of mine have shipped, I think. I don't think both of them have.
Well,
I did do it a little bit later. I did one, and then I waited. Probably 15 to 30 minutes I waited. And I was like, well, they're still up. So I went ahead and got another ETB. I just wanted one. Then I might be visiting a buddy in a couple weeks, and we always like to open ETB anyway. I was like, well, now's the perfect time to buy an ETB if I want one. I might as well get another promo.
Well, and we've mentioned before how brilliant Pokemon is in terms of using this as a way to sell stock. And I mean, you've already mentioned Brilliant Stars, but I mean, I saw Battle Styles ETBs in there.
Yeah.
That was on the list. Like, well, what does that say? Like they want some of that stuff gone. And
Yep, clearing out for the holidays. They're
yep.
probably getting ready to make a bunch of new stuff for the holidays or stock up for the holidays. So this is the big clean out.
Like hoping to clean out anything. I mean, you know, Battle Styles is what, 2 years old now, going on 3. So I mean, yeah, they want that gone.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine? I mean, I know they haven't had that product since then. They've probably had that product probably over a year, but still, over a year sitting on that. Like, you got to want that gone. So,
yeah. Good thing you didn't stick with your Battle Styles play.
Yeah,
I mean, those booster boxes.
That was one of the last big mistakes I made in the hobby.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy to see all the products. They didn't have a whole lot, but they had a good selection, and the ETBs lasted for quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what they end up selling because, I mean, as soon as I found one that looked decent with the Crown Zenith, I'm like, okay. Problem is, a lot of these recent sets, like any of the Scarlet Violet sets, I'm not really interested in, especially the English. V-Star Universe was really, or i.e. Crown Zenith, was really the last set that really caught my eye.
Yeah. Yeah, the Brilliant Stars was one, and yeah, I feel like Lost Origin is still pretty good with the things you can chase in there, but
maybe. But you remember that time at the KC Con? Oh, you weren't with me, but I opened 12 packs just to finally get a hit. Nuh-uh, I'm good. Like,
well, they could have been also like have you opening some loose packs just to
no, they opened the booster
inventory.
box in front of me. I mean, but they opened the booster box in front of me, and that's
well,
that. Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like,
I was thinking about that too. That's a pretty good way to like sell packs for cheap, but like you can see people open, and if they open lights, you can kind of keep track in your head how many lights they've opened and what hits they've got. So then if it gets down to like half the booster box left and the big hit still in the box, you could like weigh those packs and keep that pack for yourself or something weird.
yeah, I mean, but I don't know. Everybody was trying to make a name for themselves that year, and you're already seeing it bigger, and you're seeing a lot more people participating, and I think a lot more people are starting to realize that, yeah, you can make money on like the small stuff if you have a vending license, but the big money's in the bigger cards. That's where most of people's margins become to where like the gross margins is what makes it worth it. You still might be only making, I don't know, 35% on that, or even less on that card, but you're potentially making 500 on a single sale profit. So, whereas you might be making on some cards $10.
Yeah, I might open those ETBs, or might open one of them because I'll be opening another with a buddy anyway. But I might open that extra one like pretty quick. I've been itching to open something, so yeah, I'll probably be opening them right when I get them. Don't know what I'm gonna do with my promos though. So did you get any at all, or was that order? Did you just cancel that one and you're just gonna?
Well,
wait?
I asked if there's no Pikachu in it to cancel it, but again, I haven't heard a response.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It's weird.
I mean, I assume it's just gonna say, oh, it's shipped, and it's gonna be too late, and I'm just gonna have to deal with it, and I'm gonna have this fucking, or excuse me, whatever.
Oh, you're good.
I'm just gonna have this Morpeko VV Max box that I'm gonna have no choice but to open.
Don't want to hold those Morpeko stonks.
Hold Diamond Hands. It's not worth my time, and I might as well open. And who knows, I might get a decent card to make it worth it.
Yeah, but those are some coal miner hands right there.
Yeah,
you might find a diamond.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I can get some cool cards that make it at least worth it for the $40, but we'll see.
I do have a little binder that I officially started. I have Lorcana in a 4-card binder or 4x3 binder. So the whole set, hollows and non-hollows, can fit in there. So that might be a new update. I don't know if I even said that, but I initially wanted to play Lorcana, build some decks, but now it's like, I'm just going to complete the master set with the hollows and everything and just kind of be done, at least until there's way more product to, where I could buy multiples of the cards. But that's kind of news in itself. But the old binder I had for that, I put aside, and I am going to be putting like pools from when I do open a pack, as rare as it is. I'm going to just start hoarding the hits, and maybe one day I'll sell the old binder, or if anything goes up, I'll dig through the binder and look it up. I think everybody should have a binder that they, even if they keep it in the back of the closet, on that rare occasion, even if you don't open up anything, I mean, surely you open like one pack a year sometimes if you're in Target and, oh, hey, there's a pack. Just keep a little binder or keep a little stash of cards that you pull, even if it's like a V. Unlikely that it goes up, but it's better than just tossing it away and not knowing what happens. Even if it's less than $1 card, if you build a whole binder of Vs, that's worth a good little chunk of change. So, encourage everyone just to kind of keep a little side binder for the junk.
I do have a bunch of stuff for the modern. I do like looking through that. Cheap cards, you can fill up a binder that you like looking at.
Yep. I need to hit up the sports card shop here in town that we go to, see if he's got some singles. But yeah, are you going to just buy a promo? I think you told me you're going to just buy a promo off eBay down the road.
If I don't get it here in this transaction, I might even wait even longer and just hit the damn 10.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I might do that. Like, next year at the KC the KC Con or whichever, there's going to be plenty of those available.
Yeah, a lot of people, and me included, I mean, I consider this like special delivery Charizard tier. Like,
yeah. Which, I don't remember how many 10s there were, which might mean I might have to get it, on eBay, but still.
Yeah, I haven't exactly seen how easy it is to grade a 10, but they look pretty good at first glance, in my opinion. And even with special delivery Charizard, those were $40 raw. I could see this being a $40 to $60 raw card, just like Charizard was for a while, and under $100 for 10.
Well, Charizard, I think, is like $200 in a 10, isn't it?
I think so. I'm also kind of biased negatively because I don't really like the looks of this card.
Which one?
The Van Gogh.
Okay.
And I don't know why. Like, it's a full art style that I like, and I like the Van Gogh styling, obviously, but just the position of the Pikachu and then the words, like, kind of come up close to his face. Like, I wish his face was, like, a little higher on the card. It looks odd to me, but it might also be because it's in English. But for those two reasons, I don't know if I'm even going to buy this card for my PC. I might make a play on those two that I'm getting. I don't know if I'm even going to grade them or just sell them or just stick them in the old binder for later just to look at. But I don't think I'm going to grade it and like chase the 10 for my PC ultimately.
I like it because it's basically a poncho, more or less. I mean, it isn't quite a poncho, but it's kind of in that style. And yeah, it's going to be a cheaper promo, but I mean, because it's cheap, it's what makes it just fine just to go ahead and just buy it, to me.
Yeah. And I have the Cramorant from the stamp box in a 10, so this is like kind of that caliber price-wise. And, it isn't Japanese, which is kind of annoying to me. Like, I like the Japanese as far as the promos go. But this is going to have global demand. Like, people in Japan are going to want this card because it's, not Japanese. It's not exclusive over there. Even if there is an exclusive somewhere, like the whole world still has the same demand. Stuff like this just goes crazy. And then just a story behind it. This very well might be the last leg of the store promos that we ever see or exclusive promos. Pokemon hates this kind of stuff. The museum pulled the product entirely.
Can you imagine if I mean, can you imagine if they did have, let's say, Da Vinci, right, or somebody like that? Let's just say Da Vinci, because he's another Renaissance artist. What? He's another huge artist that everybody recognizes, that everybody really loves and appreciates. Well, imagine if they did something like that at some sort of museum with Da Vinci, what the demand would be like, what the people would be just throwing down right there in front of the museum or store or whichever.
Yeah.
Like the Louvre. Like, imagine they did it with like the Louvre, and isn't that, I'm pretty sure that's where the Mona Lisa's at, and just, yeah, you want to fight, bro?
Yeah.
And just have us come full circle in terms of peak art with barbarity outside. Just the contrast. It's its own art spectacle in its own right.
Yeah, it's interesting, and Pokemon hates this stuff. I ultimately, like, if it wasn't money driven or like event driven, Pokemon would just be totally done with us here and now. I guarantee it. That being said, though, who knows what collabs will be in the future or what they'll be asked to be a part of. So I'm sure they want to do these things like for the Van Gogh Museum because they, I'm sure, respect the Van Gogh Museum and they want to increase the traffic and have a good experience. And even without the promos, like I would want to go see that if I was anywhere close like that.
I think it.
That's amazing.
Well, I think it makes sense to continue to do collaborations, but just don't make it to where there's a TCG product. And if there is a TCG product, make sure it's from the get-go widely accessible and potentially only accessible through the Pokemon Center.
Yeah.
That makes the most sense. Or you have to do something where you have to, it's like a mail-in thing, right? Kind of how some of the Misaki promos were, but obviously not that exclusive. But just do it where you have to mail in or submit a code or something to be able to fulfill it and get it. Something where you cannot get it physically right there, then and there, to prevent the ability to scalp it or create a scene like they did with the Van Gogh promo.
Yeah, but if people are like handed codes and the same situation will come up to get more
Well,
codes.
that's just one example. Just make it to where it's just online exclusive then.
Yeah.
That simple, and make it to where it's not. I mean, we kind of referred to this the last episode, but I mean, yeah, there's plenty of ways to do it to make it accessible without making it barbaric and child's play.
I think they are getting better online. There's like a little CAPTCHA every time you're like logging in, and the site still sucks, and I had to refresh a lot to even hit
Sucks
my
ass.
Yeah, it's really bad. I had to
There
refresh a
is,
lot, and it like thought I was a bot because I clicked refresh like 4 times.
Wait, it is better than what it was in 2020. I can attest to that. I got blocked real quickly, and I didn't get blocked this time. But you do the capture thing for trying to refresh it. It is slightly better, but it's still pretty bad.
Yeah. And with those blocks, I mean, maybe they're cracking down on like the IPs and everything, but even if I were a bot and I got blocked, I mean, you could have a VPN, just change your IP in like 2 seconds and get another order in. So, yeah, that way's a little weird too. It's a lot more complicated than most people think. Most people say, "Oh, just have them one per customer, just track it by IP."
Yeah.
But like people can get around that very easily. So,
but yeah, we'll just have to see what they do. I think we'll definitely all be paying attention whenever the next one is announced. That's for sure.
Yeah, we get the privilege to criticize and judge and not have anything to do with it. So we get to sit back and watch and complain about it when it goes south.
Absolutely.
So they're getting better. They'll figure something out. But yeah, at this point, it's like we have plenty of chase cards in the hobby. We don't need to do promos. It's very nice that we can have promos if we ever do get them here and there. But if Pokemon Company really wants to, they could just say, all right, no more promos. And there's enough of a library of like chase cards where we can be satisfied. And it would probably make those chase cards, like similar products like ponchos or full art promos, be worth even more because there's even less of them year to year. So with the screen promos, we got 5 promos. So they were trying something new here with only doing 1, because they very well could have done a card for every one of the artworks, like very easily. So I think they knew that they had to limit it in some way. Even though it ended up how it was, there was only 1 promo card, and that's the best way to, I don't know, mediate problems ahead. You could just reprint 1 card or more of 1 card.
I would say a few of them are going to be on my Grail list for sure coming up. But was there any other news at all?
Not really. We did have the announcement of a promo card returning to leagues, which is, I'm surprised they haven't been doing that. There's a little TPCI or little logo for the league down at the bottom right. There was a Pikachu card this time with Charizard in the background where they're dueling. It's kind of reminiscent of the illustration contest card.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought.
Yeah, they have this shown on PokeBeach of the Charizard card in 2010. It almost looks like he's battling a Pikachu, although you can't really see the Pikachu in the original card. They kind of made the Pikachu at an angle where they kind of, you assume Charizard's battling the Pikachu. But, yep, there was a Worlds promo for it. There was a couple other versions. There's like an Asia Championships version with the stamp. So this card is like nothing new. It was given out in gym events in Japan without a stamp. So this has just kind of become a token card to like slap some stamps on. And we did have the announcement of Shiny Treasure EX.
Yep.
The high class pack. So
the ugly ass Charizard.
Yep, the clown Charizard. It's going to be very reminiscent of Hidden Fates and Shining Fates with baby shinies. So it's just kind of another special set. And Shiny Star V as well.
Yeah, I would say I'm curious for some of the art rares that they're going to have.
Yeah, they could potentially have shiny art rares.
So. Which I assume is what's going to happen if it's a shiny set. And those are the cards I'm interested in.
Yep.
I'm thinking those cards might be the first, true chase cards of this, non-waifu true chase cards of this generation.
Yep. If there's a little Marnie-like card like there was in Shiny Star V, that'd be one to go after.
Yeah, something like that, I'm sure.
But yeah, that's pretty much it for the news. We can talk about the grading and our plans if you want.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I sent out pretty much all my gold stars and all my first edition holos. And yeah, the first batch of them came back, the big batch with most of the gold stars. I will say I had some surprises. Some cards that I guessed that would be 7-8 range got a 9. Like the Mudkip Gold Star that I'm looking at right now. So that's pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them that, like Torchic, it had little... It's really rough and has like corner indentions. So like I automatically assumed 4. And it indeed got a 4. Had some cards that I assumed like a 7 or 8. And they got a 5. So... yeah, it's kind of all over the place. I wasn't really sure what to think about it. There were some winners, but there is a video of this. I kind of go through every card if you're wondering on my YouTube channel. Kind of show the fronts and backs and all the grades, which is nice. But I was seeing a trend, and I think they've been really cracking down on the back edge wear lately. So like typically... cards will have like corner dings and stuff. And then you have those older cards where they are worn, even though they might be like 9 condition on the front. If they've been worn, they have that nice little white, even wear on the back.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're docking pretty heavily for that. So instead of coming down to a PSA 9 for one corner ding, just imagine that on the entire border of the card. And they pretty much dock for like each one of those. And if it's like all around the card, I'm starting to think that's like an automatic 6 or a 5 by the way that mine were graded. So yeah, I don't remember them being too harsh on that on the past, but then again, I haven't really sent old stuff in quite a while. I will say my first edition Charizard has kind of the same problem. It looks really good on the front and back, aside from the back whitening. And, it's a 5. So I don't know if they've always been like that for back edge wear or if it's been cracking down. But while I was looking at the cards, I felt like they were cracking down on it a little more than the past. So, yeah, I don't know. But then, like my Rayquaza Gold Star, it has that. And it also has like some frayed corners, kind of like the Torchic, and it got a 5. So I thought it was going to be like a 3 or 4, and it got a 5. But I don't know. It's definitely weird. I did have 2 cards in there that I had previously cracked out of cases. Had the Vaporeon Gold Star in a 9, which regraded a 9.
Hey!
I had a PSA 9 Mew, which graded a 7.
That's frustrating.
So, yeah, and I was looking at that and literally, like, I don't know, that one. I hate to send it back in, but you're talking like double the value if it gets a 9 again.
Might be worth at least trying once, and if not, maybe just keeping that for a while, potentially.
Yeah, so it's really frustrating there. But if I crack that out and send it in, there's like 2 others that I'm like, all right, this probably should have gotten a little higher. So I don't know if I want to do all that yet. I have to wait and ultimately, have everything in my hands. I'm pretty solid that I'm gonna sell my first edition holos aside from the big 3. So this is kind of the first play we've talked about between us. There's a world where like I sell everything, and I could potentially go for a PSA 9 first head-based Charizard.
Mm-hmm.
There's another situation where I could sell most and go for a PSA 8 Charizard. Oh, let me get a drink here. Been kind of sick, so the parched, yeah. Been a little sick and my throat's a little dry, so I might have a couple squeaks here and there. But there's a world, where I sell some and get a PSA 8. There's a world where I sell like a couple of them and get a PSA 7. Obviously, the price from a 8 to 9 jumps drastically. If I did go for a PSA 9 first ed Charizard, I'd pretty much have to sell all the gold stars and, my current first edition Charizard, obviously.
Yeah.
And then that's where you kind of came in. You might be looking at
swooping in.
If I do make a play like that, I know you might be a person of interest for the 5 that I have.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, kind of mentioned earlier in the episode, where I never really thought, so whenever I first got into this hobby, I never really thought I was going to be able to afford a first edition Charizard. Obviously, with the pandemic prices, I don't recall the prices before necessarily the pandemic without doing some research and just hearing some of the, people speaking that were in the era and hearing you talk. And I just thought I was out of reach, right? Well, fast forward, got a better job, get a little bit more balanced life, slowly getting on track with where I feel like I should be. And all of a sudden, with potential some moves with Lorcana, it all of a sudden becomes not just like this intangible dream, but a realistic reality. And I feel like, it's a PSA 5, but you know what? So is the one card that I'll never ever sell, my PSA 5 Charizard that I first opened on my first pack. And I kind of like having a matching pair to that. I kind of like that idea. Now, will I potentially go up, maybe like a 7 and an 8 in the future? Maybe, but you know what? Let's slow a roll. But, just having that 5, which, as you mentioned before, the surface, the facade of the card looked great.
Yeah.
Like I saw a 9, for example, and I mean I'm trying to think with yours. I'd have to see it in person again. It's been a while, but the scan you showed me looked pretty close to like maybe some mild scratching, but nothing significant, and then like a print line. But like overall, the facade looks great. A
Yeah, and
great card to have in your collection.
the scans do like make it look way better too.
No,
Like it's not like bad in person, but like the scans, it really pops the hollow and everything. A lot of outside factors. But yeah, it's kind of wild. I'm looking at TCG Fish right now for some price history. It
yeah, I can't even find anything
says
on 130 point. Like it's bringing up all this other shit that isn't. I'm saying first edition. It's like it's bringing up base set, and it's like we kind of see this with the Disney or kind of where there is these fake listings, and it's like PSA 10 Elsa sold for like $500, and we all know it's bullshit. It was pulled. They got like a 0 review rating, and they're from some country, that it just screams sketchiness. And I'm on 130 point right now. It's usually the easiest way to like actually compartmentalize and just look at listings, and I'm not seeing one legit first edition PSA 9 Zard. I think,
there is one for sale right now.
but not sold in the last 90 days.
Yeah, Z&G Emporium. Um, he's got an auction going right now, and that's going to be like that one has a lot of eyes. He's done a lot of promotion for it, so that one's going to really tell a story when that one ends.
Is it on auction?
Yeah.
And it's on eBay?
Yep.
Well, okay, I'm trying to go to it.
So, yep, Z&G Emporium.
Auction, and then let's go to... it's got 2 days, 14,000. That's got to be this one.
Yep.
Yep, there it is. Yep, 14.5, or it's almost 15K.
It's an older cert, but yeah, we'll see where that goes. Prices have been anywhere from 18 to 22K.
So expect around 20-ish.
Yeah.
Maybe. Well, this is something where you almost want to either, you probably have to do this on eBay or some sort of auction house, because the last couple times we went to these cons, do you remember even seeing a first edition? Maybe who was it? In Heritage, that first year we went, they had a bunch of them that were in like the cabinet, right? But I think that was the only one we saw in the 2 years that we've gone there.
There's been some other like mid-grade ones.
Was there? I don't remember seeing it. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention because it wasn't on my list.
Yeah, I wasn't really looking for them either, or else we probably would have saw more. But yeah, I think there was a few. There's one guy who had like 3 of them, like low grade, because like that was the only one that caught my attention. I was like, oh wow. Or maybe like I think at least 2 were first ed. And he had Shadowless, and he had a couple unlimited and celebrations. He was a Charizard guy. But yeah, this one ends in 2.5 days or so.
Sunday night.
So I'm anxious to see what that goes for. I'll probably
Let's go ahead and
using that as my price point.
Add to the watch list.
There is a couple on Instagram from some people I follow for sale. So maybe I'd get in touch with them or reach out to some people and see if they know anybody. Maybe reach out to Gary, see if he ever wants to sell one of his. Probably not. But
yeah, he's kind of a hoarder.
Yeah. Which I understand. He kind of wants to gatekeep, like, for good intentions. Like, making sure he's not just selling to anybody. But yeah, it's kind of frustrating. He's also, I don't know, kind of weird in his ways.
Yeah.
Like, he'll sell to Logan Paul just because, even though it might not be the right intentions fully, he did it for the exposure of the hobby, which is good. That's his main thing. He always wants to get it out there. But yeah, maybe him, or reach out to Zach O. Jim Mint. He's at these shows all the time. Pretty sure
You always ask.
I'm pretty sure he's going to like all the collect cons now.
Well, now that he's a CGC rep, he's basically now trying to build relations to people to send to just like within Pokemon. That's how CGC is going to try to like get a larger chunk of the hobby, and I think it's worked to an extent, but I think it's going to be a hard sell because just objectively speaking, the money's not there.
Yeah, I do really like their slab, like their new slab and their new 10 slab. It's going to just take a while for everything to balance out. Um, what, I don't know, what really bugs me, I think, Dan Ketchum has kind of said this too. They took away their premium product. Like they had the Gem Mint 9.5 and 10, and then they had the Pristine 10, and then they had the Perfect 10, which is kind of, like Black Label equivalent.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they took that away and grouped everything in, and yeah, that's nice, but you take away that ultra premium level.
Because that was the main thing that CGC offered that PSA didn't, and it was taking the role of BGS within the hobby.
Yeah. And I did not like the old label. There were some cards that it looked good on if there was any blues in the card. But yeah, I totally kind of actually really, really love the new label if there's any black in the card.
They can always add that perfect later on if they feel like they need to spice it up. And then they'll just do what they did again. Like we'll just do, if you think it's perfect, we'll do a reholder service and a regrading service. But we won't demote it. We'll just send it back to you in a 10 if we don't think it's perfect.
Yeah, ideally that would be good. I don't know why they didn't just stick with that. But
I agree. It's like, why didn't they just do that?
Or they could have, just imagine this. They have the new Pristine 10, right, with the gold. And man, it does look nice. But what if they did a perfect 10 where they put a little gold hollow star next to the 10, like it was a 10 star to show that it was a perfect. That would have been so sick. Or they could have just made the border of the label gold as well. That would have been insane. But I get it. They're trying to appeal to the broader people, big number, big money. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they took away that premium level, and we've definitely seen some prices, like you said, the price just isn't there. There was a CGC 10 Illustrator that just sold either last week or the end of the week before. I don't know if you followed that very much, but
it was like 260,000 or something, wasn't it?
I think it was It was in the 300 range. But yeah, just imagine. And everyone who had that card, I think that was possibly the one Jim Mint was bringing around at some conventions as well. But everyone who saw that card said, man, this is the cleanest Illustrator I've ever seen. It got a CGC 10, sold for I want to say off the top of my head 370 something, but I might be wrong there. But yeah, definitely much lower.
No, it sold for 495,000.
Oh, 495. Okay, I must be thinking of a different.
I think I was thinking of the 9.5. The 9.5 sold for around the numbers that we were talking about, I think.
Yeah, that might be it. But
wait, hold on. Let's see. It says Pokemon Illustrator Japanese created CGC sold for 495,000, making the second highest price realized by a CGC certified. I guess the Protostoise is probably number one.
Yeah, it could be. I haven't been keeping up much with that stuff because I just think it's kind of silly. Seems like every day there's another Illustrator popping up. Who knows how many there.
Well, I think 39. Yeah, I think 39 was what was thought. But then, if you look up to that number, it's there's people that have it that never was a part of those that won or participated in the contest or something like that. So the actual number is believed to be more, but the exact one no one can say.
Yeah, and it was 39 for the longest time.
Yeah,
assumed, but I don't know. It seems like more and more of them come out. There have been, basically tracked versions where same card's been graded multiple times. So yeah, it's just kind of a hot mess. Meanwhile, the Pika trophies, who are even more rare any given year, even though there might be the same amount of them based on the years they're given out, but I mean, those things are even more rare. Then you got the snap cards as well.
Yeah, Snap would be one of the cards like I've mentioned before, the Snap, the Pokemon Snap importance to me. I'm a photographer. I'm not like, your Ansel Adams level. I'll never pretend to be, but like I am, you know, also I would say an advanced photographer as well in terms of overall. And that is what got me into it. And to this day, photography is one of my main outlets for whatever in life. And that's one of the cards, like just any of the snap cards, right? Like owning one of those would be pretty neat. But I know like just the prices you're looking about is like a down payment on a house, minimum.
Yeah.
Like a big down payment on a house, like a 20% down payment on a house sort of thing. So it's one of those cards where essentially if I were to ever get one of them, I'd be consolidating my entire collection. And
Yeah.
it's not, it's gonna be cool to have. It's not worth that though.
To me, like there's not a single like particular card that looks like super good to me. Like it's N64 graphics, it's nostalgia, it's amazing nonetheless. But as far as like artistic wise, there's not one that like really stands out. So there wouldn't be really any satisfaction for me to have like
Mm-hmm.
one specific one and like, oh yeah, this is my favorite, this is the best one. I'm happy. So to me, like I know with that set, it's just weird like how I am with those sets because a lot of times I'm a completionist, right? I like to collect the whole set,
Yep.
or if I can single out one card that I like above all the others, I'm okay with that one. Just like the Scream set, I sold all those during peak hype. Did really well on those. Mimikyu turns out to be one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. It's also the rarest of all the Scream cards, so that was a no-brainer. It's like, this is my favorite one, favorite artwork, favorite Pokemon. It's also the one that's worth the most, so I'm okay with just having this one. Um, maybe get back to Pikachu one day, but
Yeah,
I'm
it's kind
not.
of the one I was thinking.
Yeah, I'm not
That
too
or the
worried
Gyarados,
about that one.
but it's just. You're referring to the Munch. I was referring to the Snap, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree on that too. Like Pikachu's like one of my favorite ones there. Like if I did
Yeah.
just get one, it'd be something like that where it's like Pikachu might not be my favorite one, but
No.
it's Pikachu.
Most I, and as far as to relation to the game, you remember throwing the damn Pokeball in its face, and it's just like I remember just as a kid, just like take the Pokeball, just
Take
keep
it.
on throwing.
Take it.
You will get in that right now. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
all this surfing on like the board and all the things you can get it to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically what I'm saying is like if I ever did venture or have the money, if I had unlimited funds, that would be like a I need the whole set thing for me. And it's hard because there's so many of them and also just the straight up availability of them. I think there's
Yeah.
like one Pikachu sale and
One
like
known. Yep.
I
I
think
think Dubsy has it, right?
I believe so.
I'm pretty sure he does. I think there's the Pikachu one. I don't. It somehow came forward. Somebody was like, "Yeah, I got it." Like, also getting these cards, you have to have some sort of. You can't just be a fly on the wall. Yeah, not just like a multimillionaire be a fly on the wall. You have to be. You have to have a communication and a repertoire within the hobby to find things like this because they will come to you at times, but also being able to be like, word of mouth. Yeah, I know a guy that's got it. People that don't make themselves known, don't want themselves known, people that like to stay quiet and anonymous within the hobby. Those are some of the people that, even if they may not be within the hobby, these people stay silent. These people come out to find these individuals, and you got to know them. You know what I mean? Or know people that know people.
Yeah, well, even Dubsy himself. I mean, he has like a guy who's like big in the hobby, um, alone, but it's basically he's hired as like his liaison to like find these things and do the deals. So he's a guy you always see in the videos. There was a really good video. I think I sent it to you. It's pretty long. I think strictly sealed on YouTube. He's a big Yu-Gi-Oh guy. He's basically, like I say, he's like the SM Pratt of Yu-Gi-Oh in a way. Really high quality videos, even though it's Yu-Gi-Oh and I don't really mess with Yu-Gi-Oh. I kind of have certain YouTubers that I watch and like all card markets like sports and Yu-Gi-Oh, and he's definitely like one of my favorites there. Really high quality stuff, but he went to Dubai and hung out with Dubsy and his guy basically, and they sat down and just went through his collection. And no matter how much he shows off online, it's just simply amazing to see again. All the stuff he has, but they did show the Pikachu there in that video. And he had video games. He had like original manga art. Like it was pretty nuts.
Yeah.
But him, along with maybe one or two other people,
per person,
have there's like him and two other people who are getting close to building a set, and who have like probably 5 or 6 plus of the cards. And that's pretty much all we know. Not even sure if there's a complete set yet, but it's possible with all the available cards out there that we know of right now. But yeah, with stuff like the Pikachu, I mean, there's like one of those that you know about. But that's a whole nother discussion too, just how these cards were like given out. Like, you won the contest.
Well, there's 2 of them.
Yeah, there's like
there we got one of them from, it was like the TV, right? It was like a TV show. You had to call in, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to remember. And then the other half,
sure
it was some sort of contest, I thought.
Yeah, it was
best,
like a
best photo. It was best photo that
best
you
photo
had to
and
submit.
snap,
yeah, and you had to submit it. And the other one, I thought you had to call in. I can't remember. I'd have to look that up. But anyways, don't want to get into the specifics too much. But an episode on the more rare and miscellaneous cards will be interesting for sure.
Yeah, just quickly sum it up. The winners are basically not given every card, which is a problem. They were given 100 of their card. So every snap card was pretty much like, this person won, so here's 100 copies of your card. And they did that for every card. So like
every illustration contest.
From the very beginning, there was never a complete set like fully together that we know of, because they were handed out to the person who won. And, back in the 90s, just imagine, you might not be that involved in the hobby. Like, it may have just been a side project. So for the Pokemon company to hand you, like, here's 100 of these, like, what do? You hand them out to, like, friends that maybe don't even care. I'm sure some of these were given out to, like, that kid's next birthday party. So who knows what happens to these things? The whole stack was just thrown out when they were moving, when they got older. Like,
I bet you, I wouldn't not be surprised if that's the case for one of these, maybe not the snap cards, but the 09 or 2010 illustration contest. I could see that being the case, and that's why we haven't seen some of these ever emerge.
Yeah.
The Art Academy ones are, and I say the Art Academy ones are a little bit different because it's more recency, and the Pokemon volume was starting to get up when that was done. So, but there are definitely some grails that are more obtainable and that I have on my list. But what are some more that you had on your list besides the PSA 9 first edition Charizard?
Well, so that's kind of the struggle right now. I definitely have Poncho, Megazord X.
Yep.
And then a PSA 10 Mimikyu again, which I have the Mimikyu in a 9, and you're going to be buying my 9 Mario still probably.
At some point, but hopefully within like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's kind of the, like, I won't go into too much. I'll let you continue, but yeah.
But yeah, between those two, once the Mario is straight, cash, because I already have the 10 there. So between selling Mimikyu and getting the Mario. The goal is to buy the Mimikyu 10. There is one at auction right now that I am watching pretty closely, but it's kind of crazy. I feel like that card's going up. It's got 2 hours and 9 minutes left,
Oh, that's what
and
it ends tonight.
yeah, it's 5,300 right now. So it's outperforming a lot of the ponchos. It's
Well, and a part of me wonders if if these cards have seen a jump because people are seeing the chaos with what's going on with the Van Gogh, and more people within the hobby are realizing this is it. Like what you said, this is it. This is the it of this is exclusive promos. Go after some of the gems first, like the Mimikyu, the Pikachu, some of the ponchos, and the Mario, whatever, Luigi. All the usual suspects in that regard. And the inherent scarcity for Mimikyu and Pikachu are more than the Mario Pikachu promos and the ponchos. So it makes sense that this card's going up because a lot of people are like, "Oh shit, this is going to be the Grail, one of the main Grail Japanese promos within the hobby, and we are never going to see something like this ever again. Got to make my move." And if there's just a couple dozen people that have that mindset, that's all it takes.
Yeah, I definitely need to make a move. Like Mimikyu, obviously that'd be the number one thing just to get real quick. Really curious to see where this ends. I was expecting this to be like $5,000, but it just reached over that mark, so we'll see.
Well,
The Megazord X Pikachu, Probstein has one for sale for like 3 days, 10 hours left. It's got 92 watchers.
see, there's been three in the last.
4,700.
Given this was 10 days ago, but there's been three this month that have sold around 4,500. So, I mean, I could see it, but there was a trend. It looks like maybe 5,000. Well, there's this. Oh, the one went to 3 hours left. There's nobody that has hit on it. They want 5,500.
Yeah.
So that's why it's like that.
So yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Like you can maybe get it for 5K, but yeah, there's not one bid.
Yep. We'll see where they end. It won't be making a move this round, but
No.
maybe in the next few weeks there. But yeah, Mega Charizard X, Pikachu, and Mimikyu are number one that I could do pretty easily. But then I have this whole stack of gold stars and first edition hollows. I'm pretty set on selling the first edition hollows, aside from, the big three. The Blastoise that I sent off with this last PSA order actually got a 5, so it matches my Charizard.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a Venusaur out, I have every hollow being graded aside from Charizard and Venusaur. So if Venusaur comes back a 5, I mean, there is a slim chance that I just decide to wait on that since I'll have all 5 set. But yeah, I don't know. I'd still almost rather just sell all 3 of them and get like one Charizard instead that's higher grade rather than have all 3. So I'm sure I'll still make a plan there. It just might be a little longer and take my time with finding a buyer.
I'm just saying that comes into play once more with the Charizard because I will obviously be getting the Pikachu sometime this year, either in 2 weeks or at the end of the year. Well, in order to obtain the Charizard, it's going to require essentially me selling, honestly, the whole entire D23 set. And the timing might end up being perfect once again, or within like a month or two of each other, being able to work it out.
Yeah, essentially the steps in this process is like, for sure, sell all the first editions,
mm-hmm.
and then get the Mimikyu and then the Mega X. And then from there, I'll pretty much have all the Japanese promos that I want. And then I'll take a break. I'll spend some time admiring my Gold Star set. And then I need to decide what I want to do with that. So I will say having all these Gold Stars graded and having the full set has really brought me back to the early days of collecting, and I think it sparked like the happiness that I grew to love in the older Grails. And I haven't decided yet, but it would be nice if down the road my goals in my collection just consisted of like a PSA 9 Charizard, all my Japanese exclusive Grails, and then the only thing I collect outside of that as far as set cards is Gold Stars. Like I could see myself being the Gold Star guy and just chasing the Gold Stars, and that would conclude my collecting career. As if I had like a little box of like a Gold Star set, Japanese exclusives, and then my Zard. I could die happy.
Yeah, see, mine, I actually got a list, and I like to call it, because I like to make up cool little names for things. I call it the Sinister Six. If you're familiar with Marvel, you know the Sinister Six is a bunch of villains towards Spider-Man. Does that really work for this? I don't know, but it's a cool name, so we're going to go ahead and roll with it.
Might as well.
Yeah, they're cool enough. So one of those ones of this are obviously the first edition Zard. We just referred to that, and another reason why I think it's potentially important to move on that within the next year is because I do think that the value is the lowest we're ever going to see for these cards.
Yeah, I was going to say that too.
Yeah. And I think right now, and I don't know how long that's going to take. I don't know if we're going to see a bump next year. It might be 2-3 years from now. I'm not sure, but the time to pull the trigger, if you're ever going to do it, I think is sooner rather than later, or making moves to be able to allow you to make that decision. And that's what I'm going to be doing. The first one on my list is obviously Mario Pika, and I'll get to that here in a second. But you selling that at, we've kind of discussed the potential price, and it's a pretty fair price. And ultimately, I'm not going to find a deal probably anywhere better. And we're talking potentially saving upwards of like $500, you know what I mean, which is pretty significant. I mean, that's almost 10% there. And
yeah, and a lot of time with those cards too, like we talked about, it's a lot of, obviously you don't want to pay more, but it's kind of like the housing market. Like the housing market demand a couple years ago and last year was so crazy that people were paying asking. It's kind of like the situation for the Charizard. Like if you can find someone in person that has one, I mean, even if you're saving $100, like it's worth it. Like that's the grail, that's the card. Like if you're gonna overspend or pay market on any card, like that's the one people think of.
And yeah, obviously there are scenarios where it's like it being straight cash and not have anything to do with like electronic payments could help out a little bit for you. But you also have that following on Instagram, and you have more connections to where it's possible to even sell it at that asking price, even on Instagram, friends and family. Very few people have that ability to do so. And either way, the price for what we valued is basically right on par, and it's a fair market price with the ability maybe to have like a friendly deal. Maybe, I don't know, we'll see. But it's your card, it's your pride and joy. I completely understand though.
Yeah. I also have the option of like if people just like share it, like I could be like, hey Zach, share this on your page. I'll give you $100.
Yeah.
Even something like that, because. Me and Jim Mint are sitting pretty good right now. I just paid him like total trust payment of $5,000 for Mario Pika,
so, which is a great deal also. So that's why but that's a fair market price through eBay. Like being able to get fair market price sometimes in this day and age is also just good enough. And even if you aren't saving necessarily raw money, if you're getting a fair market price without having to pay egregiously amount, that's also a great deal as well. So there's a lot of different things to go into what's a great deal, not just the raw price itself. And ultimately, whatever it ends up being in a year from now, which I assume will be around 4,500 or so. And, I'm prepared. That's the number I'm working towards. If it changes a little bit, it changes a little bit, but that's the number I'm eyeing currently.
Yeah.
But again, by my math, either I do it at the end of the year when I get my bonus and some Christmas money, blah blah blah, the quarterly payouts. You know, either I do that then, or I do that in the middle of the summer. I'm not sure. I guess it just depends on when you also decide to make the move, and it sounds like it might be a little while for you as well, which is completely fine.
It would,
But
yeah,
if
it would probably be the last of the moves, of all my moves
yeah,
there. Like, I would definitely, if I do decide, I mean, worst case scenario for you, and I decide to keep, obviously, worst case scenario would be like if I just keep the 5. But I think at most, like, I would upgrade. So, like, second worst case scenario, I guess, where, like, I do upgrade, but I jump up to, like, a 7 instead. Like, worst case time wise, I would just be taking my time with the gold stars, like enjoying them, only selling the ones that I had to.
mm-hmm.
And then so I would be like real slow about it and like, not in any rush to sell them. But here they are if anyone wants to like pay up for them.
Which works out because I will have to sell pretty much all of my Lorcana to be able to make that move if it's by next summer.
Yeah.
And as of right now, I haven't done it. So
And even in
until
that
it's,
situation, it would probably be next summer. Like it'd probably
mhm.
still line up pretty good.
Yeah, like the second half of next year is kind of what I'm assuming essentially.
Because
And I
once
think
the new year comes, yeah, who knows what'll happen.
exactly. So I like the second half of next year is kind of what I think we're both kind of thinking, or the approximate timetable. So that works out. And that's why I'm potentially making that move, the big next move next year. But the most immediate move and the second one on my Sinister Six is the Mario Pika. I've talked about this ad nauseum on this podcast, and we've all known it's one of my favorite cards. It's a lot of people, some of their favorite cards. It has great artwork by a great artist. It's got two of the biggest nostalgia from people in the '90s and Mario and Pikachu. I mean, what's not to love? And it's a must-have for me. And the first thing after I sell the bottom three Lorcana cards, that's the first move I'm making. That move is coming. It is coming soon. I can't wait for it. It's been several years in the running, and it's just kind of getting to that point is kind of crazy because we're almost there, but you still have to sell, and that is coming. And I can't wait to be able to announce when that does happen on this podcast because it's got me very hyped. I'm just trying to like manage the hype level because it hasn't happened yet. I don't want to get too impulsive. I just got to be patient.
Yep.
Um,
And it's just sitting here, so.
yeah, and the next couple that are kind of in that list is the Luigi Pika. If that might be second half of like Christmas of next year, um, or I might go with the Pancho Cart Pika. It's going to be one of those two, I think. And I haven't decided if I'm going to go for a 10 or a 9. Because if I go for a 10 for the Pancho, well, we'll see what it's like in the year. A 9 might be my only choice. But the 10, my thought process was I can always sell it, downgrade to a 9, get the Shiny Ray 9 Poncho and the Poncho Carp. And that brings me to the next one, which is just Shiny Ray Pika. And depending on what happens with you, I might be getting that one at the end of next year, or that I might not be getting that one at all because that's towards the bottom of the list. The first editions are the Mario Pika and the Poncho Carp are probably the top three, with like Luigi being 3A, 3B with the Poncho Carp. And the Shiny Ray is nice, but it's also only my second favorite, so it's going to be on the back burner. And then finally is the PSA 10 Munch Psyduck, and that's something that I could do potentially at the show if I feel impulsive to trade my 9 and get that 10 because it is one of my favorite cards.
Yep. Yeah, it's exciting times. Basically, for me, mine's more of a complicated, like, just figure out what I want to do with the gold star situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's pretty much it. I'm okay with not having the first Ed Hollows. It's just base set. Yeah, it's first edition, but in the end, it's just base set. So I'd rather put that all into one card. But yeah, just thinking of those cards you just mentioned, like, what if I do decide just to go even with a PSA 8 Charizard? That's like $10,000 less than a 9. So that alone would open the opportunity for me to, I could get a Luigi with that. I could get a couple other ponchos, like potentially 3 other really big Grail cards just by making the decision to go with an 8 instead of a 9.
And you could always potentially move up later down the road because if we recall from the pandemic, everything 8 plus, I mean, well, every first edition was going crazy for the Charizard and just the base set. But the ones that were seeing some of the egregious prices were like the 8s, 9s, and the 10s, obviously. So going with that route still gives you the ability potentially another hype to sell that at its peak. And that would be interesting if you decide to make that move. I would have to strongly consider it.
Yeah.
If I were to have the first edition Charizard, that might be the first things to go, but it makes it more difficult with, like back in the day, or like even 2020, you could just sell it, and if that'd be the only thing you sell, and you not get taxes. But now you would almost have to try to sell it at a show.
Yeah, and a lot of things back then, like I did sell a lot. I did take advantage of it, but there was some stuff I didn't sell that I hindsight should have.
Yep.
But a lot of those were like, if I sell this, I'm never going to get them back because of these prices. But lo and behold, you never know what happens. But a lot of people think that, all right, next hype bubble, I need to sell.
But you're worried because what if the prices go more than what you figure? What if they go up from there? So the
Well, and I
experience
think
tells
if
you.
they go up in like a healthy economy, like they might be more authentic because you have to factor in everything. Everybody knows that knowledge now. Everyone knows
Mm-hmm.
that they went up crazy and came back down. So you're going to have a lot of people who like buy them up thinking this is the last chance. But, to make the most of your money, you got to do the plays that no one is doing. And we've been watching these WotC hollows and first editions sink. And now they've been steady for a long time. And like you said, I think now is the time. Like, buy them when nobody's looking. Because when the healthy economy comes back and people are looking where to put their money and people are unhappy with Scarlet and Violet, they're going to start getting that old stuff again.
They're going to get, and it makes most sense for people that want to diversify their portfolio. I'm not saying that investing in collectibles is obviously highly risky because it is. But if you're looking at alternate ways, if you have disposable income, to look at potentially getting larger margins, and you have your Roth, you have your 401k or whatever you have, or some of your blue chip stocks, well, you kind of look like, well, I want to have some fun with my money, but I also don't want to throw away my money. I want it to be in a solid investment, and that's where the most solid investment you could probably do within the hobby is probably first edition Charizard.
Yeah. That's another thing, too. I could just sell all these gold stars, and that's like 3-4 years of maxing out my Roth IRA right there, which
Mm-hmm.
I try to do anyway. But yeah, it's like, I don't know, I could do that and not have to worry about that. So just a lot of, it's kind of reminiscent of our Collecticon. I just got to decide what to do. First things first, I need to get everything back, though. I'm just going to get it all back in my hands and see where it goes from there.
And you mentioned that I might sell. Like one of the things I said was my Misaki promo, so I got that from selling to Yeti Gaming when I needed to try to sell, and obviously I wanted to have as least taxes as possible, and the percentage I got was pretty fair. Well, in order to maximize my value, I got some trade. Well, I got the best trade that I could. I got Shiny Magikarp, which was near mint. I ended up getting when I sold it like $115 for it. Um, and I technically got it for like 135, 140 in trade. So I was able to like work him down. So I was able to get that money actually back overall. That all goes back to my junk slabs, by the way. And the Misaki promo was another one that I got in the same transaction. And that one doesn't have the Misaki promos, and it might be a PSA 7. But being able to sell it, if I want to put it towards a move, which I might not do till next year, we'll see. And you're only looking at a few $100 there. But with that and a few of the other cards I sent, you're looking at potentially, 500 to 700 maybe, depending on like some of the grades I got. Well, that adds up when you're trying to get a card like the PSA 5 first edition Charizard or any other ones I mentioned. and sometimes you're going to have to make those sacrifices if you want those grails. And I've already learned it's probably what I'm going to have to do, but I might wait to sell that at the con.
Yeah. Speaking of the cons, it almost made me wonder too, getting all this inventory back. It's like, it'd be also like another option, which would be awesome, is just to vend at a con. Just have all this as my inventory, be pretty firm with the prices, and just kind of bring some cash too. Just see what
Well,
comes
it's
to my table.
$500 for a table, so
Yeah.
last year, right, or something like that, or was it 250? No, it's 250,
Something around
I think.
those lines, yeah.
So I mean, you got
Couple
to factor that into
$100.
cost. Yeah,
But still, even if it was like a couple $100 just to like sit there, if I could just sell one of the gold stars at my sticker price, like, or maybe two, like that'd make up for the difference. Because a lot of things priced at these cons and stuff, they're not necessarily deals off
no,
like
they
eBay.
aren't. They aren't.
And
Like for
essentially,
example,
you're like getting a lot of those people who are trading in like a little lesser value stuff for more trade value to like turn into those. So if I could like sell just like two of the gold stars at face value, but get a bunch of other slabs that maybe make it like 110, 120% value trade for me, like that might be the start of like a little business snowball.
yeah,
Which obviously I have the cards, like I could do that, but I've never been wanting to do this as a business. Like it's always collect first. Like I'll do that stuff after my collection is done, even though it probably makes more sense just to use my collection to do that now, because I could probably get the snowball bigger and make more money quicker.
and
But
then get the grails you want and longer down the road because you'll have the income for it.
yeah, it's like, I don't know. I've thought about that too, but I've always hated the idea of treating this like a business. Like the amount of money that I make in it now, it's like very passive, and like I don't really have to pay much attention to it. So it's like I know if I paid attention to it and really went to these shows and vended and stuff, like I could really make it pretty good, I feel like. But I would have to use my own collection to get that snowball rolling. And even though it might only delay the grails for like another month or two, or who knows, someone might bring a grail to trade. It just, the collector in me fights against that. It's like, no, I don't want to give up my cards for money like that I'm not putting back into the collection. Like that's silly. But might make sense to most people, but I'm a weird collector at heart.
Yeah, and I actually already got a few messages over the Lorcana to potentially make the plays of some of the ones I mentioned, but Lorcana is kind of in a down period. I think a lot of
I'll
people are
bid
nervous right now.
700.
Yeah, exactly. I had a guy. I sent Nathan a message. I put one on auction. I've never put a card on auction. I've already sold buy it nows. I just don't like the idea of auctions with being able to potentially get lower, especially with some of the junk slabs. I wasn't going to let those go for like $8 a piece and then having to go the process of shipping. I wasn't going to do that. I don't mind doing that towards trade or cash at a con, but putting in the work and doing that, no. I'm not doing that. Um, but these cards are much significant more value. So I have two of them are priced basically at their market value, their actual market value. The Hook at 2K, the Robin Hood at 2,200 with best offer. I'm willing to take around 2K for it, which is its actual market value straight up. And the Cruella, I have the auction starting at 1K, and I have for 10 days. So next Sunday, I'm currently one of the few auctions on there. I almost did it for. See, I either had to do 7 or 10 days from when I was trying to do it. I didn't want to end on a Thursday night. I wanted to end on a weekend night. We've seen the issue of auctions ending on a weekday night. It's not as good. That's another variable to add to it. So I did 10 days. Right now, there is another Cruella at auction, but they want $3,000 for it. Mine is 1,000 starting bid, and hopefully it gets to minimum 1,800 or two. I'm hoping 2,000, and that's where coming into play on the buy it now is that the market price comes in. Anyways, I'm hoping for around 6K for all three, and I might try to sell the Maleficent PSA 10 and just keep the Elsa, and the Stitch. You think it's going to be the Maleficent, and it makes sense because of its its role within the gameplay. I'm banking on it being Stitch from nostalgia. That's what I'm banking on. And obviously, there really wasn't a huge difference in price. Maybe what 15%, maybe at one point.
Yeah, something
Um,
like that.
yeah, so it's not like a substantial much. It's just it's a bet. If I'm going to keep two, that's the two I'm going to keep. And the Elsa's clearly holding strong. Um, and like I could probably put 8,000 best offer right now, and somebody will probably send me an offer of 7,000. But I would like to, if I did do that, if I did do that on eBay, I want to wait till the following year because of taxes overall,
Yeah.
based on the bracket in which I'd be in. That's why the whole idea was always to potentially sell it over 2 years on eBay if that was the case, to minimize the effect overall on what the taxes would be taken out of it. And that's still the idea. But if I sold the Maleficent this year, I would only be slightly over that bracket, so only a small portion would be hit by a larger tax deduction, or a tax percentage, and that's not that bad. But if I were to do everything, then all of a sudden it changes it completely to where it's like, oh, I'm only getting like maybe 70 cents on the dollar, and it's like, ugh. But right
Yeah.
now, it's not like that, and it's worth that risk to me, or to be able to hold off on the two strongest cards until the following year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of decisions. I'm worried about Lorcana's production and stuff.
And I think that's what's causing a lot of people to be concerned. The fervor and the fanfare is still very much there for Lacana, but its potential growth is very much in question, and I think that's what making a lot of people concerned about investing in these cards.
I think even if the game dies, like people will love it as a collectible. Like people
Mm-hmm.
will collect My Little Pony
Yeah.
and Harry Potter cards. Like it's just going to become one of those, but it's Disney above all else. So it'll be like it would be the number one like oddity TCG. Like if the game shut down, it would become like the number one other TCG.
Yeah.
But
The
I think
biggest
I
thing
think the game's gonna I think the game's gonna last.
I do too. I just think this period right now is pretty rough. But here's the thing: I need the money. I can't. Seeing what it's going is, I believe the cards will go up, but how long is it going to take? You know what I mean? I'm trying to pay off certain debts as well. Then, the cost effectiveness of that interest on that I will be paying if I don't sell these cards now is also included in this situation. The whole thing with the taxes and being able to use the tax deductions from the cost of the original sale from the D23 cards. If I sell enough of them, it's like, oh, okay, I see what's going on there. Whereas if I just sold two of them, that, well, it's not really worth using that as a tax deduction this year and holding on until next year. All these factors come into play, and it's why I feel like I got to sell the bottom three now. Ultimately, we had this conversation originally last year, through like chat. Like, should I consolidate and just get two or three else's? And the main reason why I didn't was because of that tax law, which they announced like at the end of December, like, oh, by the way, we're postponing it. And I was like, son of a bitch, because that was why I decided not to sell. The risk wasn't worth the reward with the amount that I would have taken out with taxes. Well, since they held it off for a year, that changed everything. I could have got three more else's. So you're looking at almost $30,000 right now. Well, I could sell two and still have half my money left.
Yeah.
That's what pisses me off, but it is what it is. I was right in that assumption, and that's something where I should have trusted my gut, which I will know in the future with.
Yep. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens. Ultimately, I wouldn't mind getting the promos back. Like my intention was to sell during release with the hype, with anticipation that they are going down, and the nines on pretty much everything has. Tens have as well for like the lower stuff, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the Elsa is holding pretty strong, and the Mickey. Um,
And the Stitch and Maleficent are still between 3 and 3,500, which is, I think, going to be where they're going to about stay. And I think you're going to see those a little bit more steady as well. There might be a little bit more fluctuations, but you're not going to be able to get the Stitch for like 2,200 or the Melissa for 2,500 like you could in what was it, like March or April?
Yeah, something like that.
So yeah, so like you're not going to see that. You're still going to see growth from that period, but which is why I want to hold off and wait, because I've also mentioned that I think these could follow the route of like the Japanese promos to an extent, right? Like with Pokemon, like they're going to see a slow, steady increase, and then finally, after people realize these are the crown jewels, this is where the money's at. You're going to slowly see those people trickle in to those cards and buying those cards, increasing the price. That's kind of what I thought was going to happen after kind of seeing some of the events fold out. Here's the thing, though. Again, I can't wait that long, so I got to sell some now.
Yeah, and there is more people interested, like on the collecting side. I still don't think we've seen the effect of the general public because
there's not enough product.
Yeah, there's been no product, and
which is.
I was going to say, I don't think it's going to get much better with the second set. They're starting to tease the second set, and they've said pretty much like for Wave 1, it's not even going to be LGS's only, but it's only going to be the Lorcana Play stores only. So they don't even have enough. Like, they're basically bundling a small first chapter reprint in with the launch of the second set.
There's going to be another reprint in January on top of that of set 1.
Yeah, and like this go around, so like whenever the second set comes out, they've pretty much said like because we've had to reprint the first set, the rollout of set 2 is going to be smaller because basically they've had to reprint some of set 1, and whatever they reprinted took the place of set 2. So I don't think, like when set 2 comes out, I feel like there's going to be even less product than set 1, but there will be more set 1 product. But from what I've seen, some stores are only getting like a booster box of like the first chapter.
Which you have, this is what concerns me the most. I was like, the one thing that could potentially really, really hurt the value of these cards were Ravensburger not getting the numbers anywhere close to right. But I didn't think it would be this bad. And I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit nervous now because I didn't foresee it being this extreme. I had more faith that they would be able to do it right, and they didn't. And obviously, they've been around since like the 1800s, the business has, but this scale they were not prepared for, and it's evident.
Yeah, and they even knew that it was coming, and then on top of that, like underestimated it. Because they said at launch, like, it's going to be a rough launch, but we'll get there. And they are, just to announce already that they're reprinting more, it's awesome. But yeah, I kind of knew this was going to be a problem. Even I, though, to this extent. Like, I just thought they had more access to get things done. But apparently they're competing with all the other TCGs, and they immediately essentially like filed to get like a reprint done, but the next opening was like January. So that's why we're getting a January reprint, is because like the printing companies just are already like allocated their time to other TCGs and stuff.
Well, at this point you got to ask, why hasn't Disney stepped in as well to assist?
Like, I know it's a lot of overhead and it's a lot to like do, but like, I mean, Pokemon is just now doing it where they've acquired some of these companies. It's like, I don't know. There's just so much demand with all the TCGs right now. It's just crazy. But I think even in January, the reprint, I don't think things will be much better. I think everyone who is a diehard will finally get everything that they want from the first chapter. But, then we're going to finally get the casuals who are starting to see it on the shelves, even if there's enough for it to survive on the shelves more than 2 days. Then you have to compete with the casual people discovering the game and getting into the game. So it could be a while still, but that's kind of why I wanted to just complete the set. Set 2 does look really promising playability wise. There's already some cards that are very obviously better than the similar cards in Chapter 1. So cards are always are already going to be getting replaced for new cards in meta decks. So I don't want to continue that chase. I was kind of debating on building decks and playing. I still want to build the decks eventually. Like I kind of just set them aside, but I just want to have like them consist of the first chapter stuff just for nostalgia and enjoyment down the road. And I'm okay with just building my set right now, but still waiting on all the hollows because I'm hoping for that restock to drive down the prices.
Yeah.
The single cards that aren't like key playable cards are pretty cheap though.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a few Elsa's really dirt cheap. It was just a few hundred, or not a few hundred, like $15 for both the non-foil and foil. I didn't think that was that bad at all.
Well, they're probably even cheaper now. Like they're really
Yeah,
cheap.
it was at the price point where it was like, I don't care, I'll just go and get it. Plus, it was like towards trade, and the trade allowed me to get more when I was traded in, so it was worth it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, oh, $50 for it. It was like, it was like 12 and 3. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
like that was at the point where it's not really a price I'm really concerned about trying to save money on because I found it acceptable for what I was buying.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, hopefully they can get it together and we'll let you know how our goals change.
Yeah, the next episode I'll give you an update on these 3 cards, hopefully, and we'll maybe get the Mario. We'll see.
All right. I guess did you have a question?
I do. We kind of touched on it a little bit, kind of. But do you believe we will see a regression of the Pokemon community during the Scarlet and Violet era? Basically, less consumers of sealed product, but people that may be kind of on the cusp, but like not as active.
I think modern will calm down a little bit. I think we'll find our stride, if that makes sense, in Scarlet and Violet era. I think the hype will kind of die down a little bit. We're already seeing some like booster boxes, like pre-sale levels around the lower end, like distributor price mark. So I think a lot of people in the game of booster boxes and stuff, like I think the business community, I rather should like start that over, but I think the business community will be struggling.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't been doing it for a long time or you haven't been making your numbers and like scaling, I think crunch time is on. So a lot of these people who have distributors and are selling booster boxes, they're having to hold them for much longer. Their business has shifted away from the booster box product. Before you could get the items from the distributor and then just sell them immediately for a little profit, even if it was $5 after all your fees and stuff, you could turn that product. Now we're starting to see a focus where the least desirable items are harder to sell, which they always have been, but even more so with the Scarlet and Violet sets because the excitement isn't there.
The cards, the money, everything, even the art. Like you don't have your alt arts where it's like 1 in 1,000 and the inherent value is already in the packs that people want.
Yeah. And we've been seeing that in the booster boxes too. They've been coming down. MSRP on the Pokemon Center has been like 140 to 160 or something like that. And then you can buy boxes for like 100 after release. So things are really normalizing, I think.
For the English side.
For the English side, yeah. This is just English.
Yeah.
Japanese side a little bit, aside from like the special products, which that's kind of the same for English as well too. Like, the 151 ETBs are not behaving like the Scarlet and Violet sets
or the classic collection, people that's selling out, or the Van Gogh, obviously just going crazy. Like there are certain things that are going to have a max bull rush of people, but as a whole, I think we will see people either still like they'll be on the fringe of the hobby, not spending the $200 a month or whatever it was on seal product.
Yeah. Or this new Shining Treasures, I'm sure that's going to be a hot set. Maybe not as hot as 151, but I don't think it's going to be as hype as Shiny Star V or 151, but the hype will be there. It'll do well.
It'll be the best set in a while. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the over hype of it will be will be more tolerable. But yeah, those guys who are, making a business off selling booster boxes just because they have access to them really worries me for those guys because, yeah, you got to hold product way more, and yeah, we'll see what happens.
Well, and the biggest thing I'm most interested in seeing is how many people we have at the con or one of the cons next year. We thought it would shrink. We did see a certain less amount of people, like vendors. We saw more bigger names there instead of like smaller tables. And I expect more of those smaller folks were going to disappear. It's going to be the bigger dogs will begin to emerge and grow.
Yeah, we've already
And
seen that too. Like the bigger
mm-hmm,
guys were even bigger this year, and
mm-hmm,
we're in that stage where big fish get bigger, and then the small fish get eaten up.
yeah,
Or like the big
and
fish will buy out. Like there's buyouts that I've been hearing about for collecticons where people will just buy out the other vendor stuff and do that enough times. And so if a small vendor gets bought out, like, is he going to use that money to get more inventory, or is he just going to be like, all right, I'm
invest
done?
it. Yeah, I think you have a certain amount of people that are like, okay, it's not worth the struggle. It was a fun learning experience. It was fun, but I need to take this money and invest it or move on or whatever. And they'll probably still be within the hobby, right? But those are the type of people that could be more on the fringes of the hobby as well.
Yeah. A lot of the fringe people will get scooped up, which I guess
Mm-hmm.
technically from a business side, like I'm on the fringe, like I'm not doing it as a business, but like people like that, like me, will do really well, like who are still involved in the hobby, but like aren't full time. So I think the majority of people will be all right, but it's just those like full time guys who like haven't really found their stride yet that'll be getting scooped up or disappear. You know, the old tide's going out, and we're gonna find out who's skinny dipping. So
Yeah.
Warren Buffett says.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see next year. I kind of think we might see the D23 promos go off next year. That's kind of been what that's just a hypothesis. Maybe some of that's a little biased. I'm not sure, but that's kind of what I think we might see. We saw how there was Hunter was king the first year. We saw a bunch of promos and Japanese promos. You were on the higher end table last year. We saw a few tables with Torcana, but they were overpriced because it was a fluctuated market. And it's going to be interesting to see where those cards are at next year and what we see with the vendors overall. Because I did also get asked what I want for my whole set, and the price. I was just kind of serious. I was leaving room for negotiations. It was a vendor that goes to these cons, and he even has on he had on his Instagram like when he was in Long Beach and all that. And I don't know how serious he was about buying my whole D23 Lurkana set, but I specifically aimed higher because I was leaving room for negotiations. That's just how, I mean, it makes sense, right? Like if you say a price, they're going to immediately try to get you down lower, especially on something like that. And that's what I was leaving room for.
Yeah.
Obviously, they never responded what you were thinking after I said my price, which was like 26,000, which wasn't, I mean, it was high, right? But I was just like, I was leaving room to see, and I asked like, "What were you wanting?" And he never even responded, or like, "What were you thinking?" And he never even responded. So, his actual intrigue level, I have debate, or I have debates on how legit he was on trying to buy it, and just seeing what folks that have a complete set were wanting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting to see. I would love to have them back one day. Maybe if it's just the Mickey or Elsa.
Well, Elsa 9 would be nice to be able to somehow downgrade. Like if the price, if they hit $10,000 next year and somebody has a 9, I would definitely do cash and a 9 right then and there.
Yeah. That's probably what I would like to get back because there's some cards in my collection that I'm okay with having a 9. I think anything outside of Pokemon like would fit in that category for me. Just because, like, if it's outside of Pokemon, it would have to be something that I like anyway for it to make it in the collection. So, like, the grade wouldn't really matter too much for me. But,
Yeah.
but I guess we should wrap it up there. We're at an
Yep.
hour 45. Pretty good just for a chill talk.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let us know what you guys think of this episode. It was more kind of a general topic. We didn't really have a certain topic we wanted to touch on, but we might start doing them like this more where we just make a couple key talking points and just go with it. Maybe get shorter over time, just kind of more, detailed and focused episodes in a shorter format. But let us know what you guys think, and we will catch you in the next one.
Peace.
See ya.